So, Anne, it's wonderful to meet you, and thank you for talking to all of the people at the University of Waterloo. Your role is a very interesting one. You're leading, I guess, the digital transformation of Quebec, which is a very important and big role. I thought I would start just by talking about that a little bit, about how your council fosters collaboration between government,
Mm.
industry, and research institutions. How do you bring them all together to create innovation?
Well, first of all, thank you again, Peter, for having me on your podcast, your videocast. For me, it's such an honor to just share my journey because sometimes you don't know where to start, how people ended up as a chief AI officer at the Conseil de l'Innovation. So hopefully, it will inspire people just to create their own role and impact in the society. So, as for your question, how we foster collaboration between government, industry, and research institution, at the Conseil, our role is really to remain neutral, a neutral bridge between those actors. So we create the conditions so the government, businesses, research institution can operate not as separate worlds, but as part of the continuous innovation ecosystem. You know, in the continuous innovation ecosystem, we always seek for the plus one. Every time we speak with someone, our main wish is to say, hey, I inspired enough someone to do a plus one innovation project. So that's really our goal. So in practice, this means we want to host multi-stakeholders roundtables, a really inclusive one. We are producing shared diagnosis. For example, the report Prêt pour l'IA. So are we ready in Quebec to use AI? So it was a multi industry and actors report. We launching structuring platform like La Vitrine IA. La Vitrine IA is a showcase of all the savoir-faire in AI in Quebec. So we have 800 companies that have services and products to serve and solve problem by using AI. So that's really something big. We have nice talents, and we also have a upcoming Brigade IA, a AI readiness task force. And above all, we are there to translate the needs and expectation between communities that don't always speak the same language. Innovation becomes a collective asset when we enable these actors to speak the same language and act together.
Wonderful, and clearly, 800 businesses is a good measure of success so far. What is your vision for artificial intelligence adoption in Quebec over the next 5 years? So, what do you hope that this collaboration will lead to?
Okay, so every morning I wake up, I take my tea and sometimes my coffee, and I just imagine myself in 5 years. And I really hope, and I'm a girl, I'm a woman full of hope. So hopefully in 5 years we can be here again with a celebration. So for me, I imagine a Quebec where small, medium enterprise have a more homogeneous level of maturity in AI, supported by practical tools and the AI task force. We have municipality use AI to improve frontline services. And why I'm talking about municipality, but something that is brand new. I'm the first lady of district number two in Saint Jérôme. So I work a lot with the municipality because I just feel we need to engage in the front line with the citizens. I imagine a Quebec where large organizations become open labs for responsible experimentation, and citizens will then develop a culture of discernment, using AI and when not to use AI with confidence and critical thinking. And that's my vision for 5 years. So a useful, not really impressive AI. So I love boring AI, by the way. I don't like flashy AI. We don't need that type of AI to make it useful. Widely accessible, not reserved for only large tech or big enterprise, and authentically integrated into organization priorities rather than just adopted as a trend. AI shouldn't be a hype. AI is a tool, is something really useful, something that it needs to be accessible for everyone to feel confident with the technology.
Wonderful. So you want everybody to be able to do it, and you want the benefits to be realized by everyone too.
Exactly.
Okay, so your background, what you did before you came into this role, included advancing digital transformation at CHUM, the media organization, and Lodgebec. Could you talk a little bit about how that prepared you for your role today?
Wow, the journey was quite interesting, but basically I have three main lessons that stays with me every day. The first one is transformation is always human before it is technological. Tools follow culture and not the other way around. When we started digital transformation, you remember it was we need to remove all the paper, and then we remove one piece of paper for one information system. And we ended up with still the paper and lots of information system, and then post it on our screen to remember what's in the computer. And that's not the right way to address transformation. It needs to be human first and not just doing technology to do technology. The second lesson is that data is a organizational heritage. So building sustainable, ethical data strategies was core to my work. Uh, every day I came and I said, I need to understand the story behind every each data that lives in the organization. Who collected you? What type of decision were you involved in? So I kind of treat every data as a a person who got involved in decision, and that's the real heritage behind a data management. The last lesson, I guess, and you always keep a foot grounded, and your foot grounded is not to forget about dreaming, but it's really to understand how clinician, teams, administrator works, and because you understand how they're working, it prevents you from designing solution that float above our reality. And you don't want to have solution or technology that doesn't work for anyone, because you will end up with lots of technology and a lot of people who feel vulnerable because they are lost in those technology. So these three lessons guide me every day in my work now at Chief AI Officer at the Conseil de l'Innovation.
Thank you. So, I wanted to talk a little bit more about AI ethics and governance.
Mm, mhm,
And I was interested to know what you saw as the main challenges in ensuring that AI remains human-centered.
mhm,
And I'm aware that you have undertaken a collective reflection process
mhm.
to shape AI regulation and ethics in Quebec.
Yes.
So that has been very important, and I'm interested to hear about it.
The first step is really to see that responsible AI it's not optional. It's a precondition for trust. And you need trust if you want to adopt the technology, and not trust to the technology and towards the technology, but trust on your competency to use those technology and those tools. um, the core challenge, so starting with the precondition for trust, so the core challenge include how to integrate human values into the system by design. So we call that responsible by design. Transparency, how to explain, how to make everything so understandable that you can build your trust towards your competency to use the technology because you know exactly which data get involved in the algorithm. You know exactly how an algorithm works to come with result, and you trust your competency and your expertise to use or not the result that come from the technology. So that's human value. The other one is developing ethical frameworks that remains relevant amid the rapid technology change. For example, we're spending an hour together, and for sure, if I'm gonna log out of the call, and for sure, I'll see on some blog new features that come from OpenAI, Gemini. There's always a new feature. There's always a new release in terms of AI. So I think it's important to be aware of that technology advance in a really rapid way. But if we have the right framework for ethical, we'll be able to navigate rapid versus caution. And holding together innovation versus caution without splitting into paralysis. Sometimes we are really intimidated by technology because it goes so fast and we don't know where to start from. But still, we need to use that energy to make smaller steps, understand, create that framework and space to continuously learn. So in Quebec, we have launched, as you said, a collective reflection involving researchers, jurists, industry, public organization, and civil society. Together, what we did was assess risk, identify gray areas, because we know AI has an impact on workforce, on democracy, environment, art and culture. So we need to understand those gray area, propose guidelines, and contribute to a provincial, national, and international dialogue. So we start from a simple principle. So we can only regulate what we understand together.
Okay. What you're describing there is that there's a need to understand people and technology
Mm-hmm.
to be able to do this, to understand the impact the technology might have on people, and to understand basically how those two go together. So your training is in business analytics and
Yes.
product management, which are people and technology oriented
Mm-hmm.
to some degree. Can you talk about how those you put those together, how they help you to bridge
Mm-hmm.
this?
And something you don't know about my journey is what I was first trained as a biochemist. But I never worked in biochemistry. And then I studied journalism, and I worked for a while in journalism because I want to create that space where people understand science. And I kind of bring the same mindset into product management and data management. So for me, this field, even if they are really diverse, taught me one thing is to translate technology capabilities into business value, translate business needs into clear technical requirements. So that's a whole storyline here, from the idea to the technology capabilities into the real world adoption. So at the Conseil, it helps me to design strategy that are both vision driven and operationally grounded. So I guess you understand from my storyline that for me, it's good to dream, but you need to make it practical. It helps me define what is truly feasible. It's okay to dream again, but to make your dream worthwhile, you need to find a way to segment them into tangible action. And also connect domains such as health, industry, education, and public service together. So those are the key of the translation and the work in translating those needs into real world adoption. So my time in digital health also taught me the importance of change management, strong processes, and involving teams at the really beginning. It doesn't matter if you have a great idea and you just put yourself in your office for 6 months and then you come out with your idea. People won't see the worth of your idea if they're not involved from the beginning.
And so you talk about your job being to enable visions to be
Yes.
operationally achieved. Another way of putting that would be that your job and what you want to do is to help make dreams come true. Uh,
Wow. I'm gonna humbly take that statement and I'm keeping with myself for today because that's a really nice way to say it. I'm taking it really humbly.
Well, you're welcome to do that. But that's what immediately came into my mind as you talked about vision and making it
Mhm,
operationally achievable. Okay, turning from that a little bit, the impact that artificial intelligence will have on Quebec.
mhm,
Uh, Presumably, there may be some sectors where there are greater benefits than
mhm.
others. Maybe it's going to be spread evenly, but probably not. So I thought I would
Mm.
ask you to talk about that a little bit.
Mm. Well, I have three sectors in mind. When we talking about AI adoption, we need to understand that there's one main recipe for AI adoption. It's the same from the culture of innovation. So when you have a person um, who is named guardian of the ambition of innovation, data, or AI. So you have a chief innovation officer, or you have a chief data officer. You have a chief AI officer, or a group of persons who preserve those ambition. That's the first recipe for adoption in AI. The second one is to create the living lab to test really quickly those technology to see what you can do or cannot do or be able to do. So the art of the possible remains in those living labs. And the third ingredient is to have a great policy on equity, diversity, inclusion, because in innovation culture and the same thing in AI adoption, you need to have diverse voice around the table. So when we looked and we studied those who has those recipe and ingredient in place. You have manufacturing and industrial, small, medium enterprise. So AI can really improve quality, reduce downtime, optimize energy use. So, as I said before, I also teach at Université de Montréal, supply chain and AI. So really, we can see the value on the supply chain really quickly. The other sector is healthcare, and not to replace people, but to support teams, streamlined access to information, improve patient pathway. So we really see the impact on healthcare really quickly once you want to adopt the technology. And the last one is public and municipal services. So AI can make um, a state or city more agile, reduce delays with the citizens, and improve all the infrastructure planning. But ultimately, the sector that will benefit the most is one that is willing to experiment quickly but humbly. So with technology, you need that space, that safe space to test really quickly those technology. And once you're a sector that is willing to do that move, Well, you're going to be on the top tier of adoption AI.
So you're basically saying it's a very interesting response because what you're saying is it doesn't depend on the nature of that sector as far as their technical characteristics are concerned, but rather it's a wider range of characteristics that any sector can benefit from AI, but it depends on their readiness to do that, as
Yes,
opposed
to
to
thrive.
anything specific about that industry from a technical point of view.
Exactly. And that's really, it surprised me a lot too, to say, oh, it's human readiness versus
Mhm.
technological readiness. Because once the human are ready, they say, okay, I need a better infrastructure. I need better data management. I need better digital transformation. But it all starts with the human readiness.
Okay, you talked there about the need for inclusivity, the value of
Mhm.
inclusivity, and I'm particularly interested in how you do that, particularly supporting women in science and technology.
Mm. That's something so dear to my heart. Um, the innovation thrives when it draws from diverse lived experiences. So my commitment to women in science is grounded by my own journey. So there were years when I had to borrow imaginary mentors just to be heard because my idea were a bit avant-garde or a bit innovative. So I didn't know how to state them and be credible in them. So I kind of say, oh, my mentor who's 25 years of experience had that idea, and suddenly people were listening to that imaginary mentor. So, first, when I started my career, the first advice I was giving was don't let them hear your heels. And at that moment, I was wearing high heels. And when people were hearing those heels, suddenly they were so close-minded to the meeting and to new ideas. But once I get more involved with women in leadership, I wanted to shift that. Don't let them hear your heels to, you know what? Let them hear your heels and your voice. That's really 2025. We need to be there. And today, I work to open doors, create learning spaces where women feel safe and legitimate, normalize their presence in technical conversation. Because women are always hired for their soft skill. Oh, they have lots of empathy, they have good skills, but women also have technical skills, and we need to be at those tables. And for me, it became so important to highlight and make women leaders, more visible because people need people that resemble their reality to shine. And I gave myself that mission. So an ecosystem is inclusive only when inclusion becomes a deliberate practice. So natural, no question asked. We are just there to include people in all the processes.
Wonderful. And as part of that, you're you have talked about the need for communicating AI concepts to non-technical people. And I'm interested in your approach to doing that. I think there are things that people could learn from it.
Oh, well, it's funny because I stopped to be shy about all my different accents. When I speak in French, I do have different another accent. When I speak in Vietnamese, it's funny because when I speak in French, I have somehow a Quebec Vietnam accent. When I speak Vietnamese, I have a French accent, and when I speak English, I do have a French Vietnamese accent. So first, I say, okay, don't let your accent be a holdback. for you. So that's one piece of advice I want to the student, I want the community to learn from, not to be shy, to share your experience, to share stories. So I have those principles about telling stories, not only explain how algorithms works, because once you go to technical, people don't feel related to the stories. And you need to tell stories. You need people to relate to the reality. And I like to show how AI enables, not how it works only. Again, I come from boring AI, and every time I do an interview with a journalist, they say, "Oh, show me how you work with robots. What is in your daily organizational work?" And I just open my screen and I start typing codes, and I say, "Oh, that's it." I say, "Well, yeah, it's AI enables few tools. It needs to be practical." Um, and once you understand how practical it is, people again related those solutions in their daily life. And lastly, make everything complex, abstract to concrete with relatable example and real world use case. The goal is always the same, is to demystify, to clarify, and then to empower. Empower is such an important objective when you speak to someone, when you explain a complex concept. People need to feel empowered after having a conversation with you.
In the discussion we've had so far, it is very clear that your focus is on enabling everyone
Yes,
to participate to understand, to take advantage of artificial intelligence. And
yes.
this, I think, is so important too. But the fact that the Conseil is taking this approach, that Quebec has adopted this approach, is I think a very good thing and something we can learn a lot from. My next question, I have two final questions. My next one is around how you measure the success of what you do,
Mm,
because this too, of course, is important. That you are able to understand the progress you're making.
mm. Really interesting question because we have a tendency to be impressed by a large number. And we shouldn't measure success by the number of technology that were adopted or the number of projects that are launched in an organization. Sometimes we go in organization and say, hey, we are really innovative because we have 3,000 innovation project, but it's not that. We need to feel the impact. So how by your project or initiative you're able to increase an organization maturity to take better decision, faster decision. How to feel the impact of faster learning cycle. Again, it's all about the culture of continuous learning. Are we able to teach and train everyone in a shorter amount of time, especially in technology? We cannot go from a year of training now. We need to train people really quickly. So calculate how we're able to fasten make the learning cycle faster. How are we able to spread best practices more quickly? Feel the measurement on the social, economic, or environmental value that we are created by using some sort of technology, and also the quality of the bridges that we are built across sector. Now with AI and digital transformation, we shouldn't work in silos anymore. We should work across sector. So feeling the impact on increasing the quality of services and processes all across, that's one key of how we measure the great benefit. So innovation is not a race anymore. It's a collective progression. It's not one and only one person in his office or her office, but it's really a collective ambition.
Yep, that makes sense. In our digital transformation program, the topic of silos is usually a very hot discussion. We discuss
Yes.
that, and it's one that motivates people to
Hmm.
participate because they've had experience of it, and it highlights what you're saying, the importance of overcoming this challenge. Okay, my final question. Early in our discussion, you talked about how you were optimistic and
Hmm.
positive, and of course, this is a good thing. What keeps you optimistic about AI and innovation in
Mm.
Quebec, despite how quickly things are moving, and in spite of some of the challenges which no doubt you face?
Yeah, and I know it can be really scary sometimes to talk to me because I seem so optimistic that people think that I'm flying over the clouds. But yet the only way I am that optimistic is because I'm realistic. And I see and I take time to see how small, medium enterprise are eager to learn. And I did this year alone for the past I think 11 months, 250 training session, conference, panel. So I do feel the need of people that are eager to learn. So that eagerness to learn, that's curiosity. And when you put your curiosity into action, well, that's why I'm so optimistic. And I see also researcher really passionate about sharing. And now it's not only AI in a small lab with only, like in the 50 in the basement of Dartmouth College with only scientists. Now we see researchers wanting to make those AI centric and algorithm more explainable so they can be adopted. So that's really another key of my optimism. I see also public organization, ministry trying to serve their citizens better and not only to do innovation or adopt AI to adopt AI to show that they are the best in the world, but really to say, hey, how can I serve better my citizen? And if that need to go through technology and AI, why not? Because our main purpose of waking up every morning is to have a better relationship and a better world for the citizen. And lastly, I see young people with deeply ethical instinct. Um, I go to colleges, I go to different smaller schools with students from 8 to 17 years old, and they challenge me a lot on the impact of AI on environment, on ethic, on discrimination, on democracy. And that for me keeps me really optimistic because they're so much wiser than I was at their age. And I say, hey, they are the one that will rule the world in few years. So that's also keep me really optimistic. So AI brings, yes, challenges, but there's one truth that remains that the real engine for innovation is still the human being and our judgment, critical judgment, discernment, our creativity, our capacity to act. So, for the first time in the history of humanity, human just realized that the main actor on this earth and humanity is actually the human being and competent human being. So, why not being optimistic, you know?
Absolutely. And what you had to say about the attitudes of students around artificial intelligence and technology, I thought was very interesting. I'm writing an article at the moment based on a survey that I've been doing with students for the past 8 years around their attitudes towards technology.
Mhm,
And what we've seen happen, or what is reflected in that survey, is that over that time, they've become more concerned about
mhm,
the impact that artificial intelligence and other technology will have in the future. But at the same time, there is optimism about what it might hold. But the
mhm,
concern is there. And so when we look at it, it seems to me that the future use of technology is something we can be optimistic about. They have the right,
mhm.
what I think are the right concerns about it, and will contribute to it being used in good ways.
Yes, and for the you, I have a 13 years old girl
Hmm.
and a 6 years old boy, and both they're born with the technology, with AI. So for them, it's not a change. For them, it's just learning to have a better impact on the environment, on society, use their voice to influence it in the right way also. And they're there with their parents who whose relationship with the technology is so different because we lived in the world where there were no internet in the past. And we were trying to imitate phone calls by doing this. But my son asked me why, when I was imitating someone on the phone, I was doing like this. And I said, yeah, because in the past it was on the wall and we just pick it up. And for him, calling his grandfather or grandmother is like, can I call? Because it's FaceTime. So the
Hmm.
relationship with the technology is so different. So for them, using technology is to say, hey, let's optimize, let's create environment where I will be able to do my work really quickly. And then I'm gonna use my eyes, my sight, to look around the world, to travel, to have relationship human to human. So for me, it's really exciting the time where we are right now.
Yeah, and as an educator, they to prepare people for that world, to prepare
Hmm.
someone who's 13 or 6 now, when they get to university, the preparation we should give them for the world that they'll be in
Hmm.
is very interesting to think about. We have a lot of challenges to address
Yes,
in creating education that will prepare people well, but.
exactly.
I'm very grateful to you, Anne, for doing this. I really appreciate it. I think it's been a very valuable discussion for the people who will watch it. So, thank you for doing it, and good luck with what you're doing. Your work, I've have learned a lot about. It seems that it's very important, and I wish you well.
Well, thank you again. It was such an honor for me to be part of your podcast, videocast. So again, thank you for thinking of me.